I'm happy to give a brief overview of UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, and why innovation is indispensable for everything we want to achieve in this world. I'll give you a sense of our journey, our priorities, our portfolio, so that you can understand that the world we want to see is where every woman, adolescent, and young person everywhere has a right to plan for their future. And this means being able to decide whether, when, and how many children to have, and that every pregnancy is wanted, every birth is safe, and every young person's potential is fulfilled. And this is what we mean when we're talking about universal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. This is what the United Nations Population Fund is about, and that we recognize that it's core to everyone's life choices to be able to decide whether and whether, with whom, and when to have children, and the ability to decide with whom to be intimate with, and the information and means to do so must be at their disposal. And we believe to get there, we are focusing on three main results, which is you'll see on the right-hand side: ending unmet need for family planning, ending preventable maternal deaths, and ending violence and harmful practices against women and girls. So this is our 3 zeros for the world we want to see by 2030. A bit of background about UNFPA. So we, as you can imagine, it's a huge mandate we've been carrying since 1969. We are 50 years old this year. And we are equipped with a global footprint and presence around the world in about 155 countries with 6 regional offices plus sub-regional offices, and staffing levels nearly 3,000 around the world. And it just so happens that we are the biggest public procurer of sexual and reproductive health commodities in the world. So while you're overseas, you happen to be by a kiosk and you see different family planning methods, that's likely from UNFPA. So let me take one of our priorities to illustrate a bit more about why we innovate, and that is for what I would like to speak a bit about is the reason for unmet need for family planning and contraception. Because we know that for centuries, women have resorted to many, many dangerous and ineffective ways to prevent pregnancy, um, showing the enormous need for reliable and safe sexual and reproductive health information and education, and that these programs are absolutely essential for people to make informed decisions. So this is just an image to show that there's been many, many ways that have been costly to women's lives as well, so that they can plan their futures by preventing unintended pregnancies. But thankfully that we do have modern methods and choices at our disposal. They exist, but it's still out of the reach for many. Despite that, we know that the benefits for women and girls to be able to plan their lives are huge, and it has ripple effects for families and communities, as well as reducing maternal deaths, reducing child deaths, etc. So it's central to women and young people's empowerment and for the Sustainable Development Goals. And here I just want to share with you that innovation is absolutely indispensable, because the way things are tracking, despite what we know, projections show that at the current level of efforts and investments, we won't see the change we need. So this shows the percentage of women who want to stop or delay childbearing but are not using an effective method. And while there has been a slight decline since 1970, and when we look at where we are today, around 2020, current efforts, it shows that it flatlines from now until 2030. We want to see the dotted yellow line happen now. We need innovation and new approaches and new ways to bring that line down to zero. So with that background about why UNFPA is intent on innovating, I just want to share a bit more about our journey and approach, what we're doing, how we're set up at UNFPA, and why we must constantly seek innovations to address those stubborn challenges that I spoke to. Here, with this slide, and as Johanna had mentioned, we were one of the first organizations to to establish an innovation portfolio. But we are also constantly looking to think how must we innovate within so that it would strengthen our ability to deliver for all the women and girls around the world. So this picture documents a bit of our official, if you will, innovation journey. 2014, it shows that innovation and creativity became a corporate priority for the organization. It's very, very high on the agenda of our executive management. And at this time, it coincided with the establishment of our innovation fund, which is used for catalytic programming and culture change from our mandate. I want to highlight especially that in 2017, we have had 5 calls for proposals, of which 20 or so have been funded. We wanted to assess how we were doing along the way. So in 2016 and 2017, we we called for a formative evaluation so we would know how are we doing? Are we learning? Are we moving quick enough? Are we agile? What does it mean to build up our design, our structure, our systems? Are they fit for innovation? And with that, we use the findings for that evaluation to shape our current strategy, our phase 2 innovation, which is what we're in the process of now, launched at early 2018. And there you can see at the top left-hand corner, this is the start of our second innovation journey, where the evaluation had taught us or had highlighted many lessons, how we need to connect across nodes, etc. And so here, this consolidates our lessons from before. We wanted to revamp our approach. We wanted to be more purposeful with our priorities for innovation so we can co-create and scale up the impactful solutions for the challenges I described earlier. So on the right-hand side, you'll see things that are very familiar to you. It is the 9 principles of innovation that we want to infuse and mainstream in everything we do so that we can inclusively co-create and scale up these data-driven solutions. On the left-hand side, in the circle are our 4 thematic priorities where we are focusing our efforts. Digital health, closing the last mile for sexual and reproductive health commodities, new data innovations, and innovative finance. And around that circle are the key approaches we want to do. Co-creation of solutions to stubborn bottlenecks to our programs, scaling up what's proven and successful, looking for engaging with new types of partnerships, and ultimately through the process, building momentum, institutionalizing a new culture of innovation so that we can be more agile, we could be more diverse in our approaches. And with this strategy, we felt that it was enabling us to align our investment to these priorities so that it would strengthen our narrative, consolidate our results, and lead to a clearer change for the mandate of UNFPA. Here, a little bit about how we are structured. We do have a small innovation unit based in New York, involved in enabling and supporting innovation activities at the field and regional levels, in line with the thematic priorities and actions I spoke to. And we've been involved in fostering a culture of innovation, scanning for trends, opportunities, and new solutions, as well as knowledge sharing. In addition to that, we have we have different nodes, an innovation network of internal champions across the organization. It's an interdivisional group, cross-section of UNFPA key staff profiles to make innovation happen, heads of offices, domain experts, IT and technologists, M&E, communications, knowledge management, and partnerships. But in addition to this, we also have this informal internal community where we want to communicate happenings across the organization to inspire, to incentivize, and create a dynamic platform across the organization to share and learn what's happening and how they're applying it in their work. So here, again, this is an internal community, but you can see different postings that we've done, announcing our innovation teams, what they're working on, some some solutions or some teams that are now testing prototypes, and also announcements of what's happening, news that we often share about the UNIN. So it's a place to access ideas, people, and resources when we're virtually connected. So now I'd like to just share more about our portfolio approach to the types of initiatives that UNFPA supports. We have a diversified portfolio where we're looking to balance big signature initiatives to create global goods that could be scaled and proven across our program countries, but also sourcing new innovations and smaller ventures that we want to test and iterate. So we constantly refresh, looking out for what's new, what can be integrated within our existing programs, and that in parallel, building those global goods to be scaled in other contexts. So I'll first describe some models and approaches that we've used to strengthen the architecture of innovation at UNFPA to build our capacities and some strategic partnerships for these impact solutions. Here, Johanna had mentioned that one approach that we had done to scan and identify new innovations were through a global crowdsourcing challenge, a partnership that we did with Open Idea to inspire, collaborate, and source new ways to radically improve access, quality of sexual and reproductive health education and services for young people, a key demographic that we work with. And what was nice about this experience was that we partnered with Open Idea, which was a thought leader in design thinking. They have a large community around the world. And by working with them, we integrated a design thinking approach to finding solutions and supporting social entrepreneurs on the ground to engage in the challenge. It went through different phases, as you would see on the bottom, from research to ideas, review, refinement, to final review and top ideas. And what worked well is that it enabled and expanded our reach to new types of partnerships that were beyond our usual orbit, gaining and engaging with a wider ecosystem of different players so that we can spark new conversations about the topics that we care about. And in the end, we identify four social enterprises working on menstrual health in different geographies. So this was a wonderful learning opportunity and also an engagement opportunity to work in the broader ecosystem and partnerships. What I want to also share, though, is we wanted to build out the strengths and skills within UNFPA so that we could do things differently and we can integrate innovation within our daily activities. So in 2019, what you see here is that we revamped our architecture to call and identify new innovations internally and with external partners. And here you could see the different stages of our pipeline where we've went through a process to identify different programmatic bottlenecks as they relate to ensuring rights and choices for women and girls. We've gone through a call for innovations, again, looking for new solutions, partners to test and scale what works and what could be the next best bet for ending unmet need for family planning. And this was something we've done together with the World Food Program, where we went through a process of curating and selecting the top solutions, what we're looking for, what would be the value to the users, potential for impact. And at this current stage, we've kicked off a boot camp. We are in the design sprint with 8 innovation teams within UNFPA and with partners so that they would be able to test, iterate, and build their capacities to innovate and do things differently for women and girls. And what is nice about this is that we've gone through a rapid prototyping module with WFP and their external network of mentors, experts in design thinking of coming from lean startup or applying lean startup methodologies, how that can apply to our regular types of programming and operations. And at the end of this design sprint, we will have a set of new adventures for 2020 that we can refresh and so that we can scale into new geographies. So fail fast or transition to scale. That's where we're looking to end up at the end of at the end of this year for 2020. This is just an image where you could see where we did our call for innovations earlier this year, looking for new approaches. We're looking for programs that would have a sufficient evidence base or proof of concept and that it would build on existing efforts, but find that nice sweet spot to draw inspiration from different sectors, disciplines, and partners. And we crowdsourced 74 country proposals, landing on interviewing and curating to 20 to finally identifying 8 teams that went through this design sprint process. Here, I'm just going to, I'm just going to just share with you just to share with you to get a sense of what happened at the boot camp. It was a very intense experience. It really kicked off new thinking to learn and apply new skills, to rapidly iterate. But beyond the solutions itself or the boot camp, it was very transformative to inspire staff members who were there to engage new partners and in the process thinking it's possible to move more quickly, to think like a startup while keeping women and girls at the center of what we do. And here, this is just a snapshot as well of the prototypes that are in the making through the process. The selected teams are looking at a range of models, new ventures, anywhere from service access, education, logistics, leveraging big data to mine new insights, to break the misconceptions about pregnancy and sexual reproductive health, harnessing tech solutions to track commodities. You'll see that on the bottom right, bottom left-hand side. Also exploring new ways for young people to access sexuality education and services beyond traditional approaches in schools and clinic walls. And also reaching populations that were not typically reached through traditional programs, such as young people with cognitive disabilities, young people who are on the spectrum so who are on the spectrum, and that's something that we are working with different academia and different partners to ensure that the correct information, body literacy is available to young people who have autism. Now, I'm just going to share a bit more about our building and scaling global digital and data goods portfolio. We've been investing in some signature initiatives on data and digital health to leverage different technologies and to produce those demonstrable models that we want to see adapted and scaled everywhere that could be used by different countries and governments. And here, just to showcase one of the first that we're working on is establishing a global one-stop population data platform where we will be incorporating, including the latest and best available population data, including georeference, census, and development data. Census data previously not available in a one-stop shop here as we're getting ready for our 2020 census rounds with many countries around the world. And this would allow for having different tools for generating new analyses and insights for national and subnational level decision making so that the governments, the policymakers, the NGOs, et cetera, would be able to know who and where people are being left behind, what is their access to the programs and services, et cetera. So this is just a wireframe. It's still being built out, and we're looking to have a launch of this effort in 2020. Another global good is that we're building scalable and customizable digital health solutions here. This is with the WHO, the World Health Organization, which we're calling the Sexual and Reproductive Health Digital Accelerator Kit. And what this is a complete mHealth solution, primarily with a focus on the clinics, the health clinics. And this kit will contain critical content, as you'll see, workflows, personas, user stories, decision-making support, collecting the critical data inputs that healthcare providers would be documenting, and plus reference software. And so that this could be customized, adapted, deployed by different countries to improve women and girls' experiences at the healthcare clinic, but also improve the quality of services being delivered. So this is one huge initiative we're doing to leverage digital for universal health coverage. It's taking the 80-20 principle where we're building out what is common, built on standards, clinical guidelines, etc. And the other 20% would be adapted and localized by the countries according to what the governments wish. So a beta version is being developed in 2019, and we have different countries that have confirmed interest to adapt and test this with their health workforce. On the client side or on the user side, as a complement, we have an mHealth, what we're calling our mHealth Starter Pack for adolescents that builds on many diverse experiences, both internally and externally, on working with young people's sexual and reproductive health. And what we're finding are some common functionalities that all our offices, all our work with young people themselves are saying that they wish to have. So this is building resources that would allow partners to plan, implement, deploy, and scale the starter pack that would have on-demand sexual and reproductive health information access, enabling peer-to-peer communications, because this is what young people have said they're interested in wanting to see, where to find a clinic to access quality services that would be assured by clinical guidelines and quality standards as well, and personal management, so that we would have the nudges to remind them for appointments, to give them access to other key information or life skills that they would want to access. We're building this on open source so that it would be providing reusable software that could be locally customized. Again, the 80-20 rule. And we're really excited because we're going to be testing this out in a few countries in West Africa. An initiative we're calling Tech for Youth in Benin, Burkina, Ghana, Togo, and Nigeria. And what we're going to be building on this platform is also experimenting with natural language processes so that we could be able to automatically translate the content through voice technology or through text-to-speech in 3 local African languages so that it's accessible to young people in these countries. And so that it wouldn't be driven from externally, but it would be something that they would choose and would be able to reuse. We're looking to ensure that these solutions are also interoperable so that they could be connected to other platforms as well. It's a fairly fluid and flexible solution because we anticipate we're going to be able to, as we talk more with young people, get their insights, they co-create with us what they want to see on the starter pack, but this is just the basis for which can be adapted according to the specific young needs of what young people say they want. And finally, across our work, we want to constantly know and learn and see what's working for us, as well as, but more importantly, what's working for the people we're collaborating together to build out these solutions. So here, we're putting together, to accompany our digital health portfolio, a Learning for Impact resource, where we want to know, with all these investments, are our solutions doing what it should be doing? Is it performing? And so we're putting together these metrics, these simple tools to enable our teams to be able to know, is, for example, the software performing as expected? Who's engaging? Who's using the system? What are the usage metrics we should be looking at? And are they coming back? So we know, and we're learning that our solutions are being used, they're being tested, they're performing the way it should be. And if not, what are the actions we need to to change course, to course correct, etc. But beyond that, we want to, or building on that, we are interested to see, well, what is the business case, and what is the return on the investments, the time, the energy, the financial resources we're putting in. So are these translating and transitioning into the learning outcomes, the behavior change we want to see? So those are the health output and outcome metrics where we want to see success happening at the level of the individual, of the women and girls who want these solutions the most. So this is something we're coupling together with the digital portfolio that I've just described for here. And certainly from our previous investments, we're looking to expand and scale with different models. We're very excited about what's ahead for UNFPA. We firmly believe that innovation is not the purview of the few dedicated members that may have innovation in their job description, but that it's the mandate for all of us at UNFPA, because that's where we're going to see change happening for the young people, women, and girls that we serve. So with that, let me end here. In case there are some questions, happy to answer them, share a bit more about UNFPA according to the interests of our audience here. So thanks so much.